Ready to rock and roll here. Now, the Inside Ball podcast, we've got the king of guests, in my opinion. I know he's a good friend of mine and a great rugby league player and also a terrific person, Alfie Langer. Alfie, welcome to the Inside Ball podcast.
Amazing to be here, Kevin.
Yeah, what do you think, mate? Is this how you pictured it?
Oh, it's an amazing setup, mate. I'm just thinking, we're going to make a movie, aren't we?
Well, this is the home game for you. You just live around the corner here in Milton.
Yes, 100 metres away, mate. So, thanks for the early start, mate.
Right, that's all good. Now, listen, we're going to get straight into your career, right? And obviously I played a lot of football with you, but going back, Narelle and I went back through your career the last couple of days, and it's next level, really, folks. So I'm going to read out some of your stuff here, right?
Okay.
4-time Premiership player, 92, 93, 97, 98. You're the captain of all of those Broncos teams. You captained Queensland and you captained Australia. 288 games for the Broncos, 100 tries for the Broncos. That's not counting the ones you set up. 51 games for Warrington Wolves over in England. Hello to everyone. Big Sammy Burgess over in England with the Wolves. He's coaching there now.
Yeah, it's a great club and had 2 great years there.
We'll get to them later, Alf, all right?
Okay.
34 games for Queensland. That doesn't include the 3 Super League games that you played, and you actually lost me some money over in New Zealand, but we'll talk about that later as well. 24 tests for Australia. Should have probably played a few more. That's probably one of the most disappointing things in your career, a few more tests. We'll get to that. Plenty to get to today, folks. Right, the Rothmans medal winner, 92, 90, 96, Dally M Player of the Year. Broncos Player of the Year, 98, 93, 94, 95 and 96. Wow, that's a record, isn't it?
Oh, no, I think Payne's nearly caught up to me.
Payne has he?
Yeah,
Jeez,
I think
he must be a player that has, lad, is he?
Oh, he's a good lad.
Righto, now your inaugural 2003 Hall of Fame inductee. I'm in that club, that's no big deal. And the 2008, this is a big one, inductee into the player number 93 into the Rugby League Hall of Fame. Now, that must have been a special moment for you.
Always a special moment. Any accolades, it's great, but it's a team sport. But certainly I had lucky enough to have a lot of great guys around me at the time.
Right, and this last one here should be the next immortal. Now, Narelle and I both agree, and we're obviously very good friends.
Kevin.
No, I don't think we are, and I'm going to throw that out to the podcast now. Should Alfie Langer be the next immortal? I think yes, and I'm not alone. We've got a statue of Alfie at Suncorp Stadium, which we'll get to later as well. It's an iconic. My daughter, Ava, came home from the Caxton one night. This was when she just turned 18, and she climbed up on Alf and got a photo she jumped on your shoulders and her friends took a photo. We took it home. We thought it was so funny. And that's when you know you've made it, when you got a photo with Alfie at Suncorp. So good on you, Ava. Righto. Born in Ippy. Tell us about your childhood, mate.
Yes, I grew up there all my life. Had 3 great brothers, a beautiful sister, and some great parents, which...
Rita and Harry.
Rita and Harry. We played rugby league in the winter, cricket in the summer. That was our sports. But to grow up in Ipswich, it was wonderful, and we had a great childhood there. Mum still lives in the same house we grew up in.
She does, Rita, does she?
Yeah, Harry, poor old Harry, passed away in 2022. 2002, sorry, 2002. So he's been passed for a number of years now, but he gave us a great lease into our life because he was a fantastic father, gave us everything we needed. He was a carriage builder in the railways. But him and Mum went without, but certainly give us kids a great upbringing.
Because you're a talented family, like the Walters family. Sorry, but like you played cricket for Queensland and Australia?
Yeah, under 16 cricket for Queensland.
And Kevie the same, didn't he?
Kevie, he played for Queensland cricket as well. Cliff and Neville were great cricketers. We all played first grade in Ipswich cricket. But and lucky enough, they all played first grade rugby league as well. And
yeah.
And the Queensland under-18s, Kevie and Neville all played for Queensland under-18s. Cliff broke his jaw in the trials just before the under-18s.
So he would have made it that well.
Well, he was a chance to make that as well. But we all played first grade with Ipswich Jets, which is a wonderful feat as well. But you
got us there on that one because Stephen didn't play for the Jets, but Drewy, Brett, myself and Kerra did. So the Jets have been a great club for everyone, eh?
Yeah, and still, it's... Ipswich is a great town. I was back in Ipswich yesterday at the mayor's office, and they presented me back with me.
Hang on. You are the mayor of Ipswich, aren't you?
Well, I've got the key to the city, but but in saying that, I went back there, and they presented me back me 92 grand final jersey, which was hanging up in the.
Did you give it to them?
I was presented back of the day when Paul Basali was the mayor, and after I retired, Ipswich City Council got it, and they presented it back to me, which was a great thing yesterday. And going up to the mayor's office and just looking up the town for the new offices there in Ipswich. Ipswich is a
great city.
It's an amazing town, yeah, and it's going ahead.
Yeah, it's a great city, and very affordable too for people. So the old Ippy it's produced some. Well, back in the day, we had the Australian front row, didn't we?
Yeah, Dud Beatty, Huey Kelly,
Kelly and Parcell.
Yeah, so
Ned Kelly and Parcell,
yes.
Brilliant. What's your favourite memory growing up in Ipswich, Alf? What you got one?
I just think the sport, the backyard footy. We played a lot in your house, but at home, just all the friends and your neighbours and everyone just used to come over after school. So you'd play cricket or rugby league till it was dark.
Yeah.
So then Mum and Dad would call you up, have a bath. Not too much homework was getting done back in those days.
No, just going to get to your school, your education, but yeah.
But then it was dinner and then bed and off to school again. So, but as I said, sport was our life, and lucky enough to make some great friends from Ippy.
Righto. Now, your dad and my dad were great mates in their parents and old boys. So that's how the Langer family and the Walters family were first introduced. I reckon it's about 50 years ago, Alf, at least 50 years ago, when your dad used to come over. We used to host, well, Dad did, the parents and old boys meetings.
Thursday night.
On a Thursday night. So these were fortnightly meetings from memory. And my job as a young boy was to make sure, all my brothers, make sure the eskies in the fridge was full and that there was food and that. And these guys used to raise money, didn't they, to send players like us as school kids to Sydney, to Penrith. For
Penrith,
Maitland,
yeah, under 11s and 12s. So it was. Well, they were great trips as well. But in saying what them guys did and the men, and that's even in junior sport today, you still need them people that are involved. Volunteers in any junior sport or junior clubs. And I'm lucky. My mum's still involved with the Norse Club, which we all grew up in Ipswich. She's been there for over 50 years in the canteen on the ladies' committee. And in our beautiful primary school, Blair Primary School, she still goes to the canteen every Friday. So she turns 90 this year. So she's been an amazing mum and amazing, volunteer and helper. And she's wonderful in the Ipswich community.
And you holidayed in Caloundra, the Langers? Geez, that would have been a
yes, holidayed there every Christmas all our lives. So that's eventually I moved up there for 18 years, but back living in Brizzy now, which I enjoy, but spend a fair bit of time still in Caloundra.
Now, you nearly lit the house up in Ipswich, didn't you? You and Cliffy. Do you remember that?
Yes, we had the old combustion stove, and we had our chores every day. Someone had to bring the firewood up and the chips to get the fire started. And this one day, the wood was a bit wet, so we thought we've got to get this combustion stove going. So a bit of fuel might help the help the cause, but. Cliffy's thrown it on, but then the fires come out of the thing all up the kitchen wall. And
no!
But
how was Harry with that? He would have been a bit.
Well,
cranky.
They weren't home at the time, so we got it out and got the a bit of spray out to get rid of the smell.
Must have been fun growing up in the Langer household, I can say. And Desley, she was the only daughter. So did she play much sport, Desley? Or
yeah, she played a bit of netball. She played her own sports and touch and a few different things.
Because there wasn't any women's rugby league then, was it?
Not as much, no. So, but she was always involved, same thing with the ladies' committee and involved in our footy club, which as I said before, the North Tigers. So she did a lot, and she always come to our games and watch them. She was our great supporter. And the best thing is now, my mum and Desley still go to the Broncos games. They got their season tickets.
Oh, that's cool,
They still love going. They still cheer for the Broncos, which is
why not?
A great club I'm still involved with.
Yeah, certainly. Now, you made the Australian Schoolboys in 82. That was probably your first rep team from Ipswich State High School. That was your high school. You didn't like school much, did you?
No, I wasn't a fan of school. I know we've got to preach to the kids now and and it is right. You've got to get your schooling done, and we've got to go to school and do the right thing and get your study, because you just don't know what's going to happen after school. And I didn't know where I was going
What
to
did
go.
What did you think as a Year 10 kid at Ipswich State High? Do you think that your world would evolve to where it is like now?
Definitely not. I repeated grade 9 at one stage. I was dirty with Rita at that stage. Making me
Did Rita make you repeat?
Making me repeat grade 9, because I wasn't.
Nothing against that, no.
I wasn't a great student, but in saying that, then I finished school in grade 10, left school, had a few great jobs. The first job was working at Walton's as a truckie offsider, and then joined the...
You're a truckies offsider,
yeah,
that's right.
Oh, and then Jack House, England and everything on, but that was for Walton's furniture.
So you delivered the furniture to the new furniture? To the houses?
To all the houses. So amazing job. And then I end up joining the Ipswich City Council, so just as a labourer. So
now, I remember one of your first jobs on the council used to be on the stop-go, right?
Yeah. I caused an accident one day, because back then I was a bit of a punter. So I had the radio, the form guide and everything, and I was supposed to be controlling the traffic. So that job didn't last too long, so they put me back on the curb and channel gang then.
Right.
So
that wouldn't have suited you much either, did
Well, actually, it wasn't too bad. It was a good job, and we had a great gang back then and a good group of guys that certainly helped each other at work.
There's a story, I'm not sure how true it is, that this is after you. So you were playing in the Queensland Cup, basically, and then you played Origin, right? But
yep. So
you played Origin, and I think it was a day or two after you were back on the stop-go or on the curb and channel, and a school bus has come past and virtually gone on, because all the kids ran over the one side of the bus to see Alfie Langer, who just starred for Queensland, and the bus nearly tipped over. The kids, do you remember that?
I did, because after the Origin game, I had to come back and work the next day. So it was
after the State of Origin won in 87.
87, yeah.
Would you have gone out with the boys and all that stuff? Or not?
I think we had a few beers after the game, but I was back in Ipswich the next day and go to work. Yeah,
tough as they are, old Alfie. Don't worry about that. Anyway, let's get going here, righto. So you're a good cricketer as well. Played underage, Queensland. Did Kevie play with Ian Healy as well?
Yeah, Kevie played Queensland cricket with Ian Healy.
And you were with Craig McDermott. He was in your side.
Craig McDermott was a year older than me, but I played a fair bit of cricket, junior cricket, and then a bit of seniors with him as well. He was a great batsman back then as well. He can hit a ball, but certainly his bowling just went to the next level when he represented, the Queensland Australian side.
Righto. Now, did you have who was your hero growing up, footy-wise? Did you have someone?
Well, I did. I was a Valley supporter when I was in Brisbane. Coming from Ipswich, we supported the Brisbane competition. Valleys was my team. Marty Scanlon was my favourite at Valleys. And then I was a Manly supporter, would you believe? Mm. So Manly in the New
Who'd you
South
like
Wales.
at Manly? Anyone in particular?
I was sort of a Graham Eadie fan back then.
Yeah, and Wombat.
And then, Tom Raudonikis, being a halfback, just watching him play and the toughness he showed and the competitive spirit he showed. And then I was lucky enough to be coached by him at the Ipswich Jets and to get to know him as a great mate and just to see, even as a coach, and what his skills rubbed off on me as a player and as a person, because he cared. He was a great carer for players and enjoyed a good time. And certainly when we won, he enjoyed a good time.
We'll get to more of that later as well. We've got so much to get through here today off. Right, I'm just going to go through your career, right? So in 1985, you're 19. Wayne Bennett was coaching South. He tried to get you to South, didn't he? But,
yes.
Right, but he didn't offer you anything too much, was it?
No, he offered me, he said the best possibility for you would probably play third grade.
Right.
And then he offered me a job at Arnold's Transport.
Right.
Which was reversing cars off train carriages for 70 cash a day. So I took that up for a couple of weeks.
Did you?
Yeah, I did it for a few weeks. And then I decided I didn't want to play C grade at South, so I ended up signing with the Ipswich Jets.
Right. So you signed with the Jets, and was that Tommy's first year up there?
Yeah, I think it was. So
do you remember meeting Tommy for the first time?
Yes, I met him in Brisbane. He was living at Lutwich, and I went to his house. He invited us over for a bit of a barbecue and that, a few of the players. And I went through his scrapbooks and all that sort of thing. And
I think I've Yeah, I think I've seen some of his. He used to keep.
Yeah, he had about 4 or 5 scrapbooks, and I just sat there for an hour or so just looking through there and what he'd done in Sydney and his workplace and even what he did before he become the great Tom Raudonikis. So, but he was a special guy, and up until he passed away a few years ago, he was just magic. And whenever he had a reunion, whenever we went out, he just had blokes laughing and getting on until he left the day. He would be the last to leave. He'd be first there, last to leave. But just the enjoyment you got out of his company was.
Have you got a favourite Tommy
special.
story you want to share with us?
What
about the pig's heart?
Yeah, well, and I was bad before the game because I'd vomit at any tick of the clock. But this day at Lane Park, he nailed a bullock's heart
Nailed it.
Yeah, up against the dressing room door. Then there was blood dripping down off it. I couldn't look at it. And I had to go in the corner, and I was vomiting anyway. But to see that was pretty...
And did he try and get some of you to
well,
take
he wanted,
a bite?
Yeah, he wanted players to go bite it, but no one ended up doing it. So, but it didn't really work. I think we got beaten by 30.
You did lose that day.
Yeah,
I think Glenn Haggith, he was the captain, wasn't he, then?
Yeah, he was.
Glenn the captain? And
yep.
I think he might have even slapped him in the face or something just to get you blokes sort of fired up a bit as well.
Get us started, but yeah, no, it didn't help.
Didn't happen.
I think
So
we got a bit of a touch-up that day.
Because you, I know that before games you get very nervous in the stomach and you want to vomit. Imagine seeing a bullock's heart up.
It was something different,
Big
but that was the great Tom Raudonikis, and he used to put the Vicks up his nose and get fired up, and just to see him the way he was, it was pretty special.
Unbelievable, huh? Yeah, it's great. Now, Tommy coached you at the Jets in '87. You signed on for $7,500 at the Jets a year?
Yeah, it was in thirds actually. It was funny, but it was $2.5 grand every third, 3 times a year. So I thought, how good's this? And then it was a lot better than working at the Ipswich City Council. So I thought I'd take that, and who knows what could come of it.
Yeah, brilliant. So Tommy, did Tommy take you on a pre-season camp up to
Coolum?
Cool.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we went up there.
Steve Nance, who went on to coach.
Yeah, he was.
He was a head trainer for the Wallabies and the Broncos.
Yeah, so
great strength.
Steve Nance didn't turn up the first day, so of course Tommy just took us down the beach and to the surf club, and had a bit of a bonding session.
Right.
So there wasn't much training done that weekend.
Well, that's okay, mate.
I know.
That's how you rock and roll.
Certainly. Then, they were selling these raffle tickets for the for a bike. It was
push bike,
10-speed racer. and of course they've asked Tommy to draw it out, but
Tommy being Tommy,
unbeknown to us, he's had his ticket.
He pulled the ticket out of his pocket,
and he's picked it out, and Tommy's won the bike. So great weekend all round. We didn't have to do any training, and Tommy won a 10-speed racer.
Oh, how good! I've seen that done 1,000. I didn't know Tommy. I thought they actually pulled his ticket out, but
he pulled it out. They asked him to draw the raffle ticket.
That's classic Tommy. All in good fun, eh? Tommy, what a legend! What a bloody legend! Righto. Now Wayne wasn't always a big fan of yours, was he? Wayne Bennett.
No. Well, when I was playing the Ipswich Jets then, and they had and you played in the possibles, probables.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was a Queensland-based.
Yeah, so
Queenslanders play against the New South Wales.
Yeah, we were the New South Wales Maroons. They called us.
So they had that game before the Origin side was
I thought I got the better of you in that game, actually.
Well, you did play pretty well. Laurie Spina played very well, and I was.
You were. Let's be real. You were average, mate. You were average.
I didn't have a great game.
Why is that, you reckon?
I don't know. It's just one of those nights.
Because you never have a bad night. I've never seen you have a bad night. Well, actually, I have. We'll get to that later.
Now and
then. But in a game like that.
But then after it, I went and got picked in the New South Wales. The Queensland-based Queenslanders. We went over to New Zealand, and played a couple of games.
3 games over there, didn't you? Yeah.
So, but after that game, I was lucky enough to get picked in the side. And you're right, Wayne Bennett didn't want me in the team. Wally didn't want me in the team. Bobby Lindner, just to name a few. And there's a few more players that didn't want me.
Gene Miles was another one.
So then but I was lucky. Dud Beattie, who was from Ipswich, was a selector.
Uncle Dud.
And the great Tom Raudonikis, being in New
pushed
South
for
Wales,
you really hard.
He was a guy that really pushed for me to be in the side. So I ended up getting the nod. So and
how'd you find out, Alf? when you're in your first ever state of origin? Because those days,
Yeah, no, I think they picked it.
you didn't even have a home phone, did you?
No, I think they just picked it straight
and announced it on
straight
the radio.
after that game. So,
But how did you find out? Do you remember?
it must have been on the radio, I suppose.
Yeah,
so
because
they
you
picked
never
it.
used to get a phone call from the
No.
coach, did you?
No, so how
Like
they got it picked. And then I was,
Could you believe it that you got picked?
No, I couldn't. And then because I think I knew before I went to that New Zealand trip. And then I had to come back, and then we come back to work for a week, and then went into the State of Origin camp, which was at the great Roma Street Travelodge.
Yeah.
And
It's no longer there, is it? They bulldozed that.
And the old manager, Tosser Turner, roomed me with Bobby Linner, who was one of the guys who didn't want me in the side. So to go in that camp, it was just a really, for me, travelling down from Ipswich. I caught the train down to the Roma Street Travelodge to go into camp. To go in the camp and just to be in the camp with the Wally Lewis, the Gene Miles,
Fatty Vorton,
Gary Belchers, Fatty Vorton. It was just a biggest eye-opener because the previous years I was jumping on the field watching them play at the old Lane Park.
Yeah.
And to be involved in the camp, and back in them days there wasn't only one bonding session, there was 4 nights of bonding.
Right.
So yeah, it was a tough.
How'd you go with that? How old were you? 20 or something, were you?
I
21.
was 20. Yeah. And I wasn't a big drinker back in them days, so the 4 nights of bonding session didn't suit me. So I was pretty crooked training.
Because
the next
when you're
day.
young like that, you don't want to let people down, do you? You want to try and.
But in saying
bond
that,
in.
but to be out and about with these great players, it was pretty special to be around them. And but then we got around to the Sunday and started training properly, and then the game on the Wednesday night. So it was amazing, and I still remember running on the field for State of Origin the first time ever at Lane Park. What an amazing feeling, a full house at Lane Park. I can still remember the national anthem, just the goosebumps, and thinking all your family, your junior coaches, everyone that helped you make you to.
I helped you get
Kevie,
there. Yeah.
And just all the people that helped you to get to that field that day. And the disappointing thing was, and if everyone can remember the Mark McGaw try in the last second.
try.
So that won the game for New South Wales. So in that way, it was a disappointing start, but just an amazing feeling playing Origin rugby league.
Now, if I want to take our listeners
And
back
I wouldn't
a bit,
believe I was 65.
I was just going to say that you weighed 65 kilos. You're playing against Crusher, Cleal, and all these blokes.
I think Les Davis was playing.
They're all 100 and something kilos, and you've got to go out and tackle them.
So
and there was a question mark, Alf, over your defence because someone in a team meeting in the lead up to the game.
Well, Wayne Bennett didn't.
Wayne Bennett. You listen to this, Wayne Bennett. He didn't trust you, Alf. He said, where are we going to hide Alfie?
Yeah.
In the defensive line.
But
And someone, was it Fatty?
Fatty Vorton and Gary Belcher stood up and said, he's a Queenslander.
He'll get the job done.
Just defend him in his right position, and he did.
Shame on you, Wayne Bennett. Shame on you.
And then we just went along, and and that gives me a lot of confidence, and certainly, and that's where it started, where you just didn't want to let your teammates down, and I copped a lot of criticism leading up to that game, so that's the way I worked, my game on throughout my career.
I want to hammer this point out.
Criticism there.
Wally didn't trust you. Wally didn't want you in the team. Gene Miles didn't want you in the team. Bob Linder didn't want you in the team. And the great late Tosser Turner roomed you with Bob Linder.
Yeah.
So there's an article in the paper, people that Alfie shouldn't be in the Queensland team. Bob Linder had quotes in that. And then, so Crusher put you in the room with Bob Linder.
Yeah, Tosser did. He was a great manager, and he just, to break the ice, roomed us together. So, but that was part of being a Queenslander. And then once that first week got through, I know we got beaten, but we were lucky enough to go the second game at the SCG, which was amazing for me going to Sydney.
Was that your first game playing at the SCG?
Yeah, first game at the SCG, and it was very wet, and I hated playing in the wet, and it had been raining for days, and it was pouring the day of the game, and I remember waking up in the morning thinking, oh, God, what's going to happen tonight? So But in saying that, we were lucky enough to get away with that game, and it was very tight again. I think it would have been 12-8 or it was a very
12-6, Alf.
12-6.
And that's when the King actually picked you up and
I got the photos coming off the field.
Off the field, was it? Well, he picked you up one time as well, didn't he?
No, I think that was in the third game.
Right.
Yeah. And then we went back to the decider at Lane Park.
Which you also won.
Which we also won. And
your first
so we
Origin
won the
series.
Yeah. And that's when I dedicated, I remember my brother, he was in jail. Kevie was in jail at the time, so he was watching the game from
I remember that.
jail. Yeah, so I dedicated.
You got a bit emotional.
I got a man of match and dedicated that game to Kevie.
Didn't get him out of jail because you won the
man
of the match?
Not quite, no. But he had a good time watching it there.
Righto. So you silenced all your critics in your first ever State of Origin series, didn't you? Really?
Well, I was pretty lucky, but as I said, we had a great team, but certainly.
Yeah, but mate, you were outstanding.
I know.
You exceeded what anybody thought.
If I didn't play well that series, I don't know what would have happened after it. If I got dropped or whatever, just would have went back to Ipswich and maybe lost me confidence, and who knows what would have happened. But after that, then the Broncos.
Yeah.
Or the talk about the Broncos coming into the competition in '88. So then John Rebo was the although just before that, they had a fourth game.
Yes, that's what I get to that in California.
Yeah, so
you've got a great story. You got stories everywhere, Alf.
So we went over to LA,
Long Beach, California.
Yeah,
in front of 12,000 fans.
So
now you won more than actually New South Wales. That's the game when
Peter Sterling got stuck in the banner.
He couldn't get through the banner. Sorry, Sterlo, we got to put that up as well, mate. That's a pathetic effort from you trying to run through a banner. You wouldn't have seen it, maybe, did you?
No, I didn't see it during the game, but I saw the highlights.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a great week for you because you entered into a bodybuilding contest, didn't you?
Well, funny you say that, and we probably didn't take it too serious. New South Wales took it pretty serious. They weren't allowed to drink all the way over on the plane. We were up the back of the plane and
just
enjoying ourselves. And then we went to the game, so we had a good time in LA for a few days. I went out. Well, the night before the game at our hotel, there was we heard a bit of a ruckus going on, so we all went down there to the bar, had a few drinks, and they had a bodybuilding competition going on. And unbeknownst to me, a few of the players have put my name down.
Right.
Alfie from Down Under to go into this competition.
The Thunder from Down Under.
So they've called me up, and so I've just played along with it, and so started doing a few push-ups and took my shirt off and sit-ups and got the belt in between my legs and started doing a few silly things. And no more, Alfie, no more. That's enough. So they got me off on stage, but I ended up getting third prize. So I think it was about $50 American. So
how much fun!
And the bodybuilders weren't happy with me getting
No, they'd have been filthy.
No, it's different.
The Thunder from Down Under. There you go. Righto. On to the Broncos. Now they wanted Des Hasler, John Rebo, didn't he?
Yeah, well, and I sort of had a little bit of a hunch that they were after a New South Wales halfback, and so I didn't really know too much about it because I was back playing with the Ipswich Jets then, and then John Rebo actually ended up coming up to Ipswich to have a chat, and I thought, I didn't have any offers really from anywhere else.
No one made you, even after your State of Origin series?
No, so I end up signing with the Broncos for $10,000 for 2 years.
Wow.
Well, $10,000 a year for 2 years. So
you must have thought you'd...
So back then I thought,
the jackpot, did you?
Yeah, how good's this? I can get away from the Ipswich City Council, which, I love working there, but to go and play full-time rugby league and stay in Brisbane, it was pretty good.
Well, could have, but you still had to have a job though, didn't you? Didn't you work at?
Well, when I went to the Broncos, well, I moved down there, and that was probably the hardest thing to tell my parents. I remember I had to move down for pre-season training, and Harry got up and was going to work, and Mum said, "Oh, you better tell him." So I had to say that I'm moving to Brisbane today.
Right.
Well, they knew I'd signed with the Broncos, but they weren't sure whether I was moving out or not. But to move out of home was probably one of the hardest things to do. And then we myself and Janine moved to Brisbane.
Was there a few tears up when you left?
Yeah, a lot of tears. Certainly to walk out of the home now. Rita, as I said before, Rita's still in the home we grew up in. But Dad just said, "You're always welcome back." So, which was great. So,
and how was it walking into the Broncos first day? Like all the big names, Lewis, Dowling, Miles,
Colin Scott.
Scott. That must have been a bit intimidating as well.
It was very intimidating, and to be there and Wayne Bennett as a coach.
Yeah.
I wasn't that close with Wayne Bennett back then, so it was a tough.
What was your initial thoughts of Wayne, Alf? What did you think?
Well, he was a tough taskmaster, and he was tough in that. Well, I got to know him in the
underage stuff.
Under 18s. Remember, we played in under 18s, and another thing I got against him. I remember in that under 18 trial game, Possibles Probables, he put me back on with 5 minutes to go.
He shouldn't have.
Well, I broke my ankle, so then I couldn't play in the Queensland under 18 side. So I missed out on that, and you actually got the job back then.
Well, I came in for you basically, and
then
very grateful for that, Allan.
Yeah, and then so that was probably disappointing. But to go to the Broncos in '88 and to be under him, we all knew he was a great coach. So it was just a great starter for my career.
Well, must have been because you won the Player of the Year that year, didn't you?
Yeah, in '88. But we won the first 6 games, and we thought, how easy this going to be, this New South Wales Cup. But after that, the week in, week out, hard grind.
Yeah.
The Queensland players weren't really used to it.
Yeah.
Caught up with us, and we didn't even make the semis that year.
So the first game at Lane Park, it was then, against Manly, who were the premiers from the year before.
Yeah.
Was it Brett LeMan scored the first try for the Broncos?
Yeah, Brett LeMan. I was in the headbin at the time.
Right.
Phil Daly got me after a scrum, so I was in the sin bin. Craig Groff put a bomb up, and Brett LeMan chased it through and got a good bounce and scored. But we had a great win that day. We won by about 40 points.
Yeah.
So it was a great start for the Broncos, but and it ended up being a tough year, and not making the semis was probably disappointing.
Yeah.
But the big thing about it was the great leaders of the Broncos back then with Porky Morgan.
Oh, the board, yeah.
Oh, the board.
Gary Balkan.
The owners, Gary
Steve
Balkan,
Williams,
Steve Williams,
Barry
Morena. And the other one we do forget of is the great Bernie Power, who sponsored the Broncos.
Yeah.
Put $1 million in. They didn't even have a beer on the market in '88. Wasn't going to be till '89, but putting $1 million, if you put that in perspective now, $1 million was a lot of money back then days.
Do you know the first jersey for the Broncos? So Powers were the sponsor. Yep. He put $1 million in, didn't he? Yeah. He was the first $1 million sponsorship of any sporting organisation. Bernie Power.
It was incredible.
But was the first jersey had Power, just Power on it, not Powers, and then the second. So the first year was Power, not Powers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I only found that out the other day.
Well, I wouldn't remember that.
Well, it is. It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
There's another Kevie fun fact in the Alfie chat. Power was the Broncos, and then Powers came into it. So Bernie, what a man he was. Anyway, you was bombed out in the first couple of years there at the Broncos, right? Origin, you're playing Origin again. Yeah, first, then you got selected for Australia.
Yeah, in '88, Peter Sterling got injured. Would you believe? He hurt his shoulder, so I got my first test was in Wagga. Played Papua New Guinea and Wagga. Right. So I think we won by about 72-6 or something down there. And then I was lucky enough to get picked for the World Cup game over in New Zealand. So that was a World Cup final. So that was a great day, and certainly playing at Eden Park, which is a great cricket ground over there.
Yeah.
And to play in a full stadium there at Eden Park was pretty special, and
we had a
great side there as well.
Yeah, well, that Australian team, even to today, but did it feel like weird, like putting the Australian, like this is actually happening for me?
Well, it did, and I never expected in my wildest dreams. And to play that and to be around these guys that I've been watching for years, even the New South Wales players, watching them on telly, and then actually you're out there having a beer with them, having a good time with them, and actually playing with them.
Yeah.
It was
crazy.
It was pretty surreal.
It is. Now, was it all rosy for you playing for Australia? You got, we both made the Kangaroo Tour in 1990. First test at Wembley. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was great. And going overseas, it was pretty special. But to play the first test at Wembley was just amazing. And the English crowds,
80,000 plus.
I still think you can't beat a great Pommy crowd. And even when I went over, which we'll talk about, when I went over and played at Warrington, just the crowds there, just their singing, their chanting, and all game. It's just pretty unreal. So, but getting back to that first test at Wembley, I didn't play great. I think I sort of played my game before I got on the field, sort of lost my way a bit.
Bit nervous or?
Well, very nervous, but sort of with the lead up to the game with the national anthems, and I just, one of them games where you didn't get involved too early, then the game got away.
Before you know it, it's half time and you're not playing well, and then bang.
Then the game was over, we got beaten, and I got dropped, so that was a sad thing about it.
And Ricky Stewart replaced you, didn't he?
Yeah, the great Ricky Stewart. I'm still great mates.
You're kidding, Ricky?
I'm still great mates with Sticky today, and certainly I'm very thankful I've met a lot of these great halfbacks, played against them, and they're the ones that lift me. And just to name a few, there's Greg Alexander's, Jeff Tuvey's, Steve Mortimer,
Desi Hasler,
Peter Sterling, Desi Hasler, Joey Johns, just to name a few. They were amazing players to play against, and certainly made myself lift my game to try and get on top of them.
Righto. Now, you're that good, Alf. You're that good that there's been 2 rule changes in the game because of what you did on the field. Do you remember both of them?
Stealing the ball.
Stealing the ball.
Steal.
It's still controversial today, the ball steal. But this was the early 90s.
Yeah, it was.
You stole a ball off Glenn Lazarus in the Origin. I know this because I was sitting on the sideline watching.
Yes.
In a jersey. I was on the bench. Never got on that game.
I think it was Olympic Park.
Olympic Park.
Yeah. So it was,
in Melbourne, and you stole the ball off Lazo.
And then they give them the penalty to kick the goal to
win.
To go in front, yeah. But then they went 2 points in front, but then I think Sticky scored a
the runaway
try. Yeah,
yep,
so
that's right.
But that was a turning point in the match.
Right. Greg McCallum, that was refereeing that night.
Was.
Dear, oh dear. All right, and the other one is your tackling style, your tackling technique was questioned. And you got a Queenslander, the big one you got was Marty Bella. He blew up at you.
Well, the Cumberland throw, which we call it.
It's a trip, mate. It's the Alfie trip.
I can still remember the great Ray Price. He was amazing.
How he used to tackle like that.
And what's the Kiwi guy from Jeremy Smith?
Yeah.
He was wonderful at it at Melbourne.
So is that a technique? Because you're giving away 20, 30 kilograms in most tackles.
It was just the way I felt. I taught myself how to bring the bigger men down.
Yeah, because
certainly, and I tell you what, and some poor blokes got hurt because I remember because you're not expecting it.
No,
and then they hit the ground.
Well, I used to get a bird's eye view because back in the day, again, we're going way back. The halfback and the 5'8" used to defend beside each other. And then you'd swing around once the ball got to a certain part of the field.
I'd send you to the other side. Yeah, I didn't want to be beside you.
And understandably, I get that. But I used to see the look in these players' eyes, and they'd see Alfie, a bit like I've told this story before about Gordon, but for a different reason. And they'd see Alfie and think, oh, here we go, I'll just run over this bloke. And then you would manoeuvre your body so well that they just didn't know what happened to them. They'd be on the ground, and the look on their faces, what the hell happened?
And not very, very happy either. So.
No, because they used to hit the ground hard out.
It was terrible, but just a way to bring the big boys
the Alfie Cumberland throw. Oh, it's famous, people. So we'll get some vision of that on the potty for sure. Right, so you're breaking rules, and then the Broncos. Gene Miles lead. Wally gets sacked at the end of 90. Gene Miles is the captain for 91, and then you get announced the captain for
92. Yeah. So
and there was a bit of there was huge debate about that, who should be captain.
Yeah, I know, especially with you being involved.
And Chris Johns was in the mix too, remember?
You wouldn't believe. And Wally was at the Giants back then, and I went and had a meeting with them.
To go and play down there?
Yeah, I was pretty close to going down there, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
I'd have been filthy with you.
So I got offered really good money to go down there, but then I stayed for a lot less
at the Broncos.
At the Broncos in 92, so would have been half. But as I said, just to be at the Broncos, and it's history now with what we did in 92.
Yeah. Well, So what's your memories from 92? What's your best memory, Self, from 92?
I think I think it started before 92 when Calvin Giles came to the club. I think we were more professional. We trained a lot harder. Yeah, we trained harder and we were fitter. And we had a really good group of guys. And, I think we had Glenn Lazarus come in. We had Trevor Gilmore.
Gilly came in 91. Lazo joined us in 92.
Yeah, so it was just really good buys, I think, over them couple of years. And just with Calvin, I think being a lot mentally tougher. And Dan Baker, who was a weights coach, I think we're just more professional in our preparation towards the game. And everyone got on. We had and I look back at the 91, 92, 93 teams. Everyone got on. Everyone wasn't the best of mates, but everyone wanted to play together week in, week out. And we were pretty lucky through them years. We didn't have too many injuries either, which I think helps you prepare week in, week out.
Right, now, so won the grand final. You won the Clive Churchill medal for blow in the grand final.
92, yes.
Right. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about here in a bit of depth. The Gavin Allan offload for your first, was that the first try in the grand final?
First try in the grand final, yeah.
What are you seeing there when you see Gavin cart the ball forward?
Well, it's just I was sort of just wrapping around him, but he sort of made got in a half a gap and just lobbed the ball over and just come off. Forget whose head it was, and it just bounced in my hand. So
yeah,
it was one of those things. But it was just we just love playing footy. We just love throwing the ball around.
What's your mentality, Alf, when you were playing? And I could answer this for you, but what was your mentality when you had the ball in your hands? What were you thinking?
Oh, well, just wanted to run with the ball with.
Were
you had the
looking
ball in both hands, but looking at
the opposition.
Yeah, looking at lazy players during the game, you'd be picking out who you'd run at.
You could beat with that sidestep.
Yes, or even with a grubber kick or whatever.
Or a dummy.
But you had to pick out lazy forwards or lazy players that you'd have to watch during the game. But you just, back, and I still tell halfbacks today, you just got to play what's in front of you. And
well, you certainly did that.
And I wasn't really structured back in.
Well, you weren't.
We both know. We weren't structured. We just liked playing footy, and my motto was if we can score more points than them, we win the game. Win.
The old quick tap. You loved a quick tap,
I loved a quick tap, yes. We didn't like waiting around too much. So sometimes it worked, well, most of the time, but a lot of times it didn't. And normally it's copper spray if it didn't.
And when you get the ball and you see that tied forward, do you get some energy and you think, well, I got you, mate.
You do. And you had to play with a lot of energy because, as I said, with my size and, then and it is a pretty physical game.
Very physical.
But I think that's where I learned in the backyard how to take tackles and how to fall and how to, when you get tackled, don't fight in the tackle, go to ground and take the tackle. So I was pretty lucky in my career. I didn't get too many injuries.
Well, you broke your ankle a couple of times.
Well,
you had the groin problem.
In the Origin, had groin, but wasn't serious injuries. We're back in them days.
Have you still got the groin problem now, or is it fixed?
Oh no, it's recovered. I won't talk about that one.
No, we won't. Now on the way to the grand final, right? So there's a couple of things happened in grand final week. First ever grand final for the Broncos.
Yep.
And talk about rock stars. Yourself, Kevie Walters, and Kevin Walters put out a song. Hey with the Broncos.
That was after we won that year. So
it was released grand final week, Alf.
Yes. Well,
so you were the lead singer of the band.
Well, you were backup. You're the do-up boys. But
do you remember doing that for Sony?
Yeah, I did.
Dennis
Hanlon. Yeah, he's a great mate of ours. So Sony were very good sponsors, and they looked after us immensely. But to put that song out, it was a bit of a...
It was a G-up, mate.
It was a G-up.
We were having some fun.
It ended up being number one in Queensland,
would
you believe? And I remember going on the tour. Oh, we must have been on the World Club Challenge.
No, that was for the World Cup, 92 World Cup.
92 World Cup at Wembley. So, and then seeing it come up on
we were number 28,
Rage. Back then it was number 28 on Rage, I think.
Yeah, we couldn't afford a film clip, obviously, with our Sony. Come on, Dennis, you could have suited us up there, mate. But and the boys just took the piss out of us on the bus, didn't they?
Yes, it was.
Hey with the Broncos.
It was pretty embarrassing, but as I said...
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
when you win, you can do whatever you want, mate.
Yeah, you can. And then, of course, we won, and then you get the player of the match, then off to England for the World Cup final at Wembley.
Yes, World Cup final. We got away with that with your great pass to Stevie Renouf, and we were lucky to get away with that game. But then we went and played the World Club Challenge against
so there was
Wigan
about 6 or 7 of us, wasn't there, the Broncos, that went and played in that game and then went
and stayed over for the World Club Challenge against Wigan, which was a marvellous year, and we capped off that with a great win against Wigan.
Do you remember Julian O'Neill in that game? Well, you could bet on rugby league back then. Well, you couldn't, but you did.
You couldn't, but my sister was a good punter, so she backed Julian O'Neill to score
the first try. Julian O'Neill dead set was, if you're looking, mate.
Yes, and he scored the first try.
He scored the first try.
So
He had a 5-man overlap, and he threw a dummy
and
scored. And then he was going off, and we couldn't work out why. And he backed himself to be the first try scorer.
So I think
good on you, Jules. We love you, mate.
Quite a few of the boys did, but we had a great victory. It was at Central Park in Wigan.
Yeah,
hanging off the rafters.
Oh, it was an amazing
and
crowd.
It was just a really physical game.
Do you remember the kickoff when they kicked it to Lazo, and for the first time ever in playing with Lazo, and I played with Lazo for a long time, I saw him go backwards from the kickoff.
He got
they picked him up, and I thought,
oh
my
blues
God.
all that first half. It was just
Gigi was in the thick of it, wasn't he?
He was, but it was a physical game. But the boys stood up, and we sort of got away with the game in the second half.
Yeah, but we jumped. So we'll go back to the grand final, the win. We've won. We've come back to Brisbane. How was that for you as the captain?
I think that was the best. Or the best memory of being at the Broncos.
Was that the year you jumped into the crowd, or was that the next year?
That was the next year. But
we went to King George Square, didn't we?
Yeah, we come back, even at the airport. It was packed at the airport.
Yeah.
The line up along the airport drive.
All the way into the city.
Back to the King George Square, then back to Red Hill. It was just amazing, the fans. But even today, the Broncos fans, they are
amazing,
they
aren't
are
they?
pretty incredible. And I look at the 2015 and even down there at the 2023 grand final, the support the Broncos do get, and especially the younger players, the Broncos still got that great support all over Queensland and Australia.
Yeah. Do you know in your 288 games at the Broncos, you only ever played in 2 jerseys? Number-wise.
Yes.
So you played in 7, obviously.
7.
What was the other one?
42.
You were number 42.
Yeah, I come back from me broken.
That jersey would be so famous now. Do you know where it is?
No, actually, it might even be up in the Leagues Club somewhere, maybe on the wall. But I broke my ankle in the second Origin in Sydney, and then I had about 6 weeks off, 7 weeks, and I come back against North Sydney and at Lane Park playing in 42.
42. It's a heavy number to carry around.
It was.
Wow. Anyway, that's just another fun fact for you guys. 93. So you're fair to say 92 was Broncos' first ever premiership. You won a World Club Challenge against Wigan, and you won the World Cup final. So it's a pretty big year for Alf.
Yeah, it was.
And you won. Did you win the Rothman? You win the Rothmans that year as well.
Yes.
Player of the year in the competition.
Yeah. So it was an amazing year, and one you'll never forget, especially when you win your first grand final for the Broncos. So it was going to be hard to back it up next year. But to the Broncos and the team's credit, we started the season off pretty well, and then, we were sort of...
Got through Origin, we got a bit bumpy, didn't it?
We were a bit up and down during the year, and I think we end up running 5th.
5th, yeah.
So, I think it was the last game at ANZ where we played St. George, and if we won, we would end up
Finish
third,
second or
third, and then if we lost, we were back to 5th. So,
and no team had won it from 5th, had they?
No.
In the history of the game.
So it was backs to the wall, but we had confidence in each other. But if we knew we'd turn up, if we'd turn up, we could beat the sides we did. And lucky enough, we got through to the grand final and against the Dragons again, which I think the final was a bit dour. It wasn't
14-8 or something, 14-6.
It wasn't a great spectacle. So, but to win back to back was pretty special.
And the poor old Dragon, and you still tease Mark Coyne to this day about poor old Dragons.
Coyne, he gets all his late night phone calls and different, especially during the Origin times when I see him catch up with him. I do give him a bit of lip.
And what's all this about the Saints can't play? How did that all start? What are you doing there? Like, that's a bit arrogant from you.
Well, at the time, it was back at Red Hill, and we had quite a few drinks and the crowd was there, so we just got the St George Can't Play song going. It was
and when you start singing...
It was only in jest, but I still cop a lot of flack from St George supporters today about... Especially if St George beat the Broncos.
But they still hammer you.
Oh, yeah, still get hammered big time. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a story behind that too, isn't there? Like, do you remember Wayne? He read out the tip sheet.
Yeah, well, Wayne.
Oh, sneaky Wayne Bennett. Jeez.
So he went through the players, as you know, and certainly what Brian Smith
had said about us.
Yeah, had said about the players, which was made up by the great Bobby Bax and Wayne Bennett. So that was a storyline. So... And we copped a fair bit of flack off Brian Smith, but it wasn't Brian Smith saying it. Was.
And Wayne never told us. He never said anything for years and years.
So deep down we were...
Anyway, and you got to meet Tina Turner that night as well. Geez, you're all over her.
That was in 93.
Seriously?
She was amazing. And I still look back at doing that ads and that with her, with E.T. and Wayne Pearce and that. She was...
Was that when you're on the beach with your togs and that on?
Yeah, and Speedos on. So... I don't wear Speedos too often these days, but to be involved in...
The budgie smugglers, eh?
And see what an amazing person she was. But the national anthem, it should be the anthem of rugby league still today, simply the best. And I can still remember even going to watch games and the game, that song would be sung before and after the games.
Oh, it's
and
crazy.
The crowd and everyone getting into it. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, brilliant. So 92, 93 premiers... 94, you played Origin and Broncos were okay, made finals. The Super League War. What can you remember about the Super League War, Alf? Because you were heavily involved in that. You were a major player in that, weren't you? Because you're one of the elite players.
Yeah, it was pretty tough, actually, when you look back at it and look through what happened. But I was probably one of the first Broncos to sign. So I was lucky enough to go to Murdoch's house. It was at... Hamilton, on the Hamilton Hill.
Lachlan Murdoch's?
Yeah, well, I think it was Rupert's one of
house, but Lachlan was sort of in there.
And I met John Rebo over there, so I ended up signing that day.
So you were the first Bronco to sign for Super League?
Yeah, and then, Reeves wanted me to...
Was it big money, Alf, you signed
Yeah,
for?
It was big money back then. It was, because there was a lot of...
So if you don't mind, what sort of salary were you on?
The Tier 1 players were... Laurie Daly, Ricky Stewart, the Brad Clydes. There's about 7 or 8 players in the Super League, though. So it was about...
Was there any Kevin Walters' name on that Tier 1?
I think Tier 5 for Kevin. But in saying that, it was... Honestly, I was... Back in them days, Super League was around the $1 million mark.
Righto. Jeez,
so it was good money, and that's with a few sponsors and that as well. So
right.
It was bloody good money back then.
I must have been Tier 5 because I wasn't near that.
You were close.
Oh, dear. So you signed with Super. You got the shits with us when a few of us went out at the airport.
Yeah, well...
I've never asked you this. Why did you get the shits with us?
Well, because I loved the team and loved being the group of guys we were, because everyone had signed, and then you just went out to have a meeting with the ARL. So it was... one of those things, and then I didn't talk to you for a couple of weeks.
No.
But
shutout.
Yeah, it was a shutout. But
we're just trying to look after ourselves and our families, and you blocked us. I said to Wayne, "What's wrong with Alfie?" He said, "Well, you idiots went out to the airport.
You want a double dip, didn't you?"
Yeah, and he said, "Alf's got the shits because you've already signed with Super League, and then you wanted to have a look over the fence and see what the opposition had."
You should have went over the fence first before you signed.
100% right. What did we end up doing? We stayed.
You stayed
with our skipper.
Yes.
And Johnsy led the charge there. Lazo got offered an enormous amount of money.
Yeah, he did. And
sign on.
to a lot of players' credits,
loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty at the Broncos was pretty good back in those days.
Righto. Now we'll skip through a few years and we'll get to... Well, 98 was your first year. What was your first year captain of Queensland? Was that 90...
No, that was the early 90s.
Yeah, early 90s. When Mel retired, you replaced Mel, didn't you, as captain?
Yeah. So it was... Right.
But 98 was a great year for you, right? Super League 97, you won a premiership.
Well, 97, and they still don't really count it as a grand final, but it was a great year for us, and I remember even the World Club Challenge we used to go to. We went to England for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Played sides over there, and then
you busted your groin over there.
Yeah, I did my groin. I did my groin before we went because we played Canberra on I think it was a wet Friday night, and I think I kicked a field goal and I did me groin. So I ended up going to England, and I ended up coming back a couple of weeks earlier. I tried to play the first game against Wigan. I ran on. I couldn't play, so I come off and tried to try and train for the next week, but I couldn't do it. So, and that's when Glenn Lazarus did his leg.
Yeah.
So we got sent
in London.
Both of us, yes.
He broke his leg, didn't he, Lazo?
So he broke it against Wigan. It was a really bad break. So we got sent home, and then just for recovery, and then we got through the rest of the year. Okay, oh, Lazo didn't, but we got through the rest of the year, and
Super League Grand Final.
Yeah, we won the World Club Challenge against I think it was the Hunter Mariners.
Yep, over in New Zealand. They played that.
Zealand, and then we won the Grand Final against the Sharks at ANZ Stadium.
Yeah, that was a record crowd at
ANZ
I think
Stadium
it was
too,
58,
60,000.
Pearl scored a few tries. He's scoring tries all the time, that fella. So another good year. Broncos are back. Then 98, the competition's reunited.
Yeah, the competition got back together, and I think, and that's probably the good thing about that year was everyone playing each other. I think Newcastle won the NRL title, and we won the Super League. So to get through that year, we had probably a really good. We had a great side. The Webkeys, the Thorntons, the Tallases,
all those kids coming through,
Campo,
Petro,
all Darren Lockyer. So we had a star-studded side, and
just under the cap, apparently.
Yeah,
just under.
Apparently. And then we end up playing the Bulldogs in the grand final. So, I was very tired. I think we might even been down at half time.
I missed a couple of tackles, and Gordon was poor too, from memory.
And then we come out and had a great second half and had a pretty.
Were you worried at half time?
No, never worried. But we weren't.
I remember you grabbed me and had some stern words with me.
Yeah, but we didn't play well in the first half, and I've watched the game through, and we were pretty average in that first half. But we come out and played Broncos football in that second half.
Do you remember we planted that little seed with our foot? We went so Alfie, I'll tell this story, even though it's Alfie's gig. We went out and watched the preliminary final to get into the grand final. Who was going to play us? And it was Bulldogs and Parramatta.
Yep.
And the Bulldogs forwards were outstanding that day. So Alf and I, after watching that game, we went back, to the hotel, and we said to our forwards, we teased them saying that, we'd love to play behind that Bulldogs pack and how good they are and how physical. And we just said it loud enough so GG and all Gordon, Thorny, Webkey could all hear it, And they fired up, didn't they?
They did fire up, and they were a great pack, and they were weird. And certainly even the players
so big
that came off the bench, they were big and aggressive. So, but playing behind them, it just made our jobs so much easier.
Did you win the player of the match in that grand final?
No.
Tony Carroll.
I think Tony Carroll. He had a great game, and certainly
big tons of it. Wasn't he a great fella to have in your side?
Oh, he was. He defended beside you, so he helped you a lot. But he was just a great player. He could play centre, he could play back row, he could play lock. He was pretty versatile and pretty mobile for a big lad.
Now we're going to have him on the show in the next couple of weeks, TC. So I'll leave the story about him. But you used to do something nasty to me every game day with Tony when Tony was in the team.
Yes, I'd let him in our room to have a bit of a room wrestle with him.
He used to flog me out, throw me around the room.
Well,
you sit there, or you'd leave the room, or just watch and say, "Go on, give it to him, Tunza."
Yeah, because we had
he used to throw me into walls But
well, you were pretty timid back then, so we had to get. We had to get you fired up before the game and make sure you.
I sacrificed myself for him because we wanted him to play well every week.
He loved doing it too.
Oh, he did. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Righto. 98 premiers. Right, tests at the end of the year against the New Zealand side. You won those. Won the State of Origin series.
Wayne Bennett actually coached the Australian side that year. So we won the Origin series, we won the grand final. Then we went over to New Zealand and wrapped the third test up over it.
Do you remember playing with Joey? Because I didn't go to New Zealand for the...
Yeah, no, I played with Joey. Joey played
hooker first.
Yeah, and we had a great trip. It was a fantastic trip over to New Zealand. We had a really good group of guys and just having a drink and a good time. And certainly when we won... When you win, I love celebrating when you win. So, and we had a good group of guys around there that certainly loved doing that as well.
What about the captaincy, Alf? You've been a captain for most of your life. Did you feel a lot of pressure being the captain of the Broncos in Queensland?
No, not really. I wasn't a real vocal captain, but I just wanted to lead from the front. So if I was playing well and leading well and going out and doing my job to the best of my ability, I'd love players to follow. You know, it's encouragement, but I've got to say we had some great players around me, and I had a lot of help, and especially with Wayne Bennett being the coach. You know, I always just had the C beside my name, so it was one of those things where it was great to be the captain, but just enjoyable to play for the Broncos in such good teams.
Yeah. All right, so 98, everything's happening well. 99, we're off to a shocking start.
Yeah, well, it was probably the start of the end of my career, and I was disappointed.
Well,
I wasn't enjoying the training.
Was it the pressure, or what happened, do you think?
I think it was a bit of pressure and just one of those things where you weren't enjoying the game. Where I used to love coming to train, and like that was your best time of the year, going train with your mates and having a good time. I just wasn't doing that, but I wasn't playing well. And when you're not playing well consistently, I was sort of, I think I was letting your teammates down and letting everyone down. So it got to that stage where we went up to Townsville.
Before we get to Townsville, right, we played Cronulla at Cronulla, remember? And they beat us. And then Wayne had the absolute shits with everyone. He said, right, go straight home and go to bed. And you and I thought, well, we don't want to do that. So we went out, didn't we?
Yeah, we went out to...
Did you forget about that, did you?
No, I didn't forget
about it. You're trying to forget about it?
No, things you can forget, but no, I never forget them little things. But, yeah, we went out and had an enjoyable night out. But, Wayne wasn't too happy the next day.
He was filthy. Right. So we get up to the Cowboys, playing them.
Yeah, and as I said, I wasn't playing well. And it was the first time Wayne Bennett raked me off the field.
You got hooked?
I got hooked, and that's...
I think we ended up drawing that game, didn't we, with the Cowboys? Or did we
I
win?
think we got away with the draw. I think Benny Walker kicked a goal from the sideline to draw the match.
Yeah.
But once I got the hook, and I've never ran off the field as quick.
Faster.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where
Did you think it was all over for you when you ran off?
Well, I just thought, and that was only round 10 or something.
Yeah.
10 the season. So when I went off and then I got to the dressing room, I was down on myself, down on, the world, and wasn't feeling great. And then I just got back to the hotel. We went out for a few beers, but I wasn't.
No, you weren't. You were not yourself, normal self.
I wasn't my jovial self and wasn't having a great time. So I went home early from the night out, which normally in Townsville
No, that's not you. That's not Alfie.
You're out till stumps. But got back to the hotel, then I sat. Wayne Bennett's organised me to.
Well, we used to pay extra, you and I and a few others, Gordy and a few others, to fly business class.
Yeah.
Particularly home from games, not so much up, and Wayne positioned himself
to sit beside me on the plane.
Right, up in business class, eh?
Yeah. So then we discussed it, and I wasn't happy. Then I decided I was going to retire.
On the plane on the way back.
On the way, yeah, which was a sad moment. But then in the next week or so, we had the media.
Did the press conference at
the Broncos, and
that was huge.
Then I was finished.
We're all shattered, mate.
I know, and I look back at it, and I still think maybe I just should have had a month or two off, but I didn't, and I retired. But luckily, Darryl Vandale, who was a great mate of mine, a great friend, God rest his soul, he was coaching Warrington at the time, and he rang me straight after he retired. He said, why don't you just come over here and play? And I said no at the start. Then a couple of weeks later, he rang me back again, and then I ended up signing with Warrington. So for the 2000-2001 season. So then I just got a new lease of life. But even after that, I was sitting out for a few weeks, and I still travelled a bit with the Broncos, and Wayne let me come away and watch. So that was hard. That was pretty hard watching the team go around and
without you.
Yeah, but they did amazingly well. The Broncos.
We end up squeaking into the finals.
Yeah, squeaking in the finals.
Didn't sort of do too much there.
I know, but it was just a great feat for them just to get the final. So it was tough watching them because they got on that winning roll there for a while, and think,
winning without you
should have
hurts,
been
doesn't
part of it, yeah. So, and sitting watching wasn't the best thing either. So, but then I was lucky enough to go over there, got a new lease of life, and take my wife and family over to live in Warrington. It was pretty special, and something I'm glad I've done.
What's some of your best memories from Warrington, Alf?
I just think the friendship. We had Andrew G come over and his family, Darryl Vandervelde and these two girls over there. So we just had a
Tawera Nickow was there as well, wasn't he?
Tawera Nickow, he was a great team man. Danny Nutley.
That's right.
Danny Farrer. We had some great teammates.
Lee Breers was in that team.
Lee Breers. So it was very enjoyable. It was great 2 years. Great to live in another country. Kids going to school over there. It was just an enjoyable 2 years. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had that chance to come back in that game in 2001.
Which we're going to get to. But you sold England to my family as well. So Kevin Campion was one of the imports that was to go to Warrington for 2001. I'd retired after 2000, and then you convinced me and my family to go over, and only lasted a month. But fair to say I wasn't in the best of form over there, was I?
Well, you got the players player for the
for the away team.
For the away team one day you're going that well. But in saying that,
I'm going to take you through that story. How humiliating that was for me. So you got it was a French team. It was a challenge.
Yeah, it was a Challenge Cup game.
So the French, was it Villeneuve who we played?
We were playing Villeneuve, and
you got their captain to come in and present me with their players' player. You gave the jersey. Said, there he is.
I thought you played.
You thought I was their best player.
Yes, you did well. Even Darryl thought you were their best
player.
player.
My God! So I went home not long after that. The week after that, I had to face Pearl in the centres, and that was enough for me. I'm out.
Well, Pearl was at Wigan, but I just don't think you stayed there long enough to enjoy the culture, because it was tough. And I still remember myself and Gigi got there in the end of December, and it was cold and wet and miserable. So we just had to get through that first few months. Once we got through that, once the game started, then we had 2 great summers there, because it's the Super League they play in the summer.
Yeah.
So we had wonderful 2 years there. So it's something I'm glad I've done. And certainly,
the Warrington boys are coached by Big Sammy now, and he's doing a pretty good job over there.
Yeah,
you still keep an eye on the.
Yeah, it's a great club. I'll be over there at the end of the year. I'm taking a Gulliver's trip over there for the Test series.
Right.
And I'll be going back to play an old boys game back in Warrington.
Right.
So we've lined that up with a couple of dinners and a couple of drinks there.
Oh, excellent. Because you're very held in high regard there, aren't you?
It was a special club, and certainly the fans, the people that were involved there were great, and they certainly looked after it, myself and the family.
Righto. So 2001, you're playing for Warrington in the English competition, and you get a phone call to play State of Origin 3, the decider, at ANZ Stadium.
Yeah, it was.
Who rang you?
Wayne rang me, but I'll go back 12 hours. Andrew G, he come back because he had a shoulder reconstruction. So he was back in Australia, and Broncos must have played on the Friday night, and he's out in the drink at City Rowers, the good old City Rowers.
City Rowers, what a night. Oh.
And he was ringing up, and I said, gee, I'm in bed, because time difference, front rowers weren't real switched on. So he's ringing me saying, Wayne's thinking about bringing you back for the third game. I said, what are you talking about, G? Have another drink, mate, and bring me back tomorrow. So then the next morning I was getting up ready to go to train at Warrington, and of course Wayne Bennett's called. And I spoke to Wayne most weeks about how the Broncos were going and how I was going over there. And after a while he said, how would you like to come back for the third game? I said, what took you so long to ask?
Yeah.
So, and that went on. Then I had to okay it with Darryl Vandervelde, who's
in Warrington. You missed a game or two for them, didn't you?
Well, I only missed one, but in saying that, we played that weekend. I got back to Wayne Bennett. Darryl said it was okay, which he didn't okay with the board back then. And then got back to Wayne Bennett. Took till that was Saturday. Took till that next Thursday. When he got back to me, he said, the New South Wales Rugby League have okay to
right
because you come back from England. So that was Thursday. I ended up playing against Leeds on the Friday night, which Tony Carroll was playing for. Played them, flew out on the Saturday morning and arrived here Sunday afternoon.
Right.
So, and I've got to say, the build-up, the hype, my preparation for a game, because I wasn't the greatest trainer, my lead-up, the preparation, I've never prepared better for a game, because I knew I had a good group of young guys playing for Queensland. Wayne Bennett was coaching, and Billy Johnson was a trainer, and he couldn't believe, because I was never out front. So I just had to show these guys I was...
So you were 35 years of age, though, weren't you?
35, yeah. I was there ready to play, and amazing how New South Wales scored in the first minute, and I thought, oh, Jesus, what's going to go here? But no, we just played great that game. We got away with a great victory. And
talk to me about your try in that one. I want. Do you remember your try? Like everyone remembers that game and remember you coming back, but your try.
But even the build up, the hype, the media,
that was
through
huge.
the whole week, it was amazing. But that try was just one of those things, close to the line, just taken on lazy forwards, and
you reached over.
Yeah, lucky enough to get across. So it was just a great night, and it was just a.
Do you remember who you beat?
Michael Valla was one I just got underneath.
Sorry, Michael, we're not having a go at you. Alfie's not.
Yeah.
But did you think, he's 110 kilos?
Yeah, but it just, it was getting towards that game where we just had a bit of a roll on. So,
right.
And it's when in a game, if you get a bit of a roll, it's pretty hard to stop. So our momentum was just all going our way. So it was one of those things, just a bit of luck involved, and
over you go.
We went. But and as I said, and the toughest thing about that Origin week was the 2 days with Tom Raudonikis at the Brecky Creek after the game. So the Monday, Tuesday, had a couple of great days with Tommy. Then I had to fly back on the Wednesday, flew back to England, got back, played St Helens. The next Saturday, got beaten by 60 points. So it's amazing.
Are you sitting in England thinking, oh, my God, what a week I've had,
And then getting back to the Darryl Vandervelde story, because he didn't really okay it with the board for me to... Because they beat Halifax when I was away, so...
No problem there.
Yeah, there's no problem. But Darryl ended up getting sacked.
Over that?
Yeah.
Wow.
That, which was sad.
So he's put his...
And then they stopped paying me with about 8 weeks to go. So then I sadly departed Warrington with about 6 weeks to go.
But the relationship's still good now.
The relationship's great, but it was just a sad way to leave there.
Well, obviously they got the shits with you going back.
And I had a chance to go to St Helens.
Do you regret that?
Yeah, I do regret it, because Sean Long got injured, and he was a great halfback, and he was injured at St Helens, and the coach rang me to go and
see if you wanted to play there.
And silly me, which I do regret, but I was being a one-club player here with
the Broncos,
and then one-club player with Warrington, I just didn't want to go to another club, but regrettably, I didn't go, but in saying that, I was lucky enough to get another year
at the Broncos,
in 2002. So
yeah. You had a pretty good year that year, didn't you?
Yeah, we made the preliminary final. We were a bit unlucky there. I think Bill Harrigan, if you're listening, I know you went to the Roosters next year, so you did us in that preliminary final, mate.
What happened? What did he do, Alf?
Just his refereeing, We shouldn't say that, but referees, they can rule games.
Righto. Now, we've come to the end of your career, right? Have you got some favourite memories? You've shared some already, but tell us some of your favourite moments in like for the Broncos. Have you got a favourite premiership or a favourite moment?
Well, I think your first premiership's always your favourite, but I just think the sponsors, the fans... As I said earlier, Broncos have got a great following, and just being involved with the club, and lucky enough to still be involved with the club, and we've had some sponsors there from the start. So just being involved with them and the supporters, and just wearing the Broncos shirt, it's great to be part of the club. So.
Yeah, you really are a Bronco, mate. I see that in every way. Do you remember diving into the crowd after the 93 grand final?
Yeah, 93, lost most of my clothes. I still had my jocks on at the end, but all my
remember
jeans,
they were passing you over?
Yeah, straight across. Yeah,
they were passing you like you were surfing, basically.
Yeah, from the far side of the field back to the Leagues Club back then. So then I had to go quick to get a new change of clothes on.
And then And Lazo dived in too, didn't he?
Yeah,
remember?
Lazo, but
They went down with Lazo's weight, but they got him back up.
they were,
Remember that?
They did, and to Lazo's credit, but they didn't get him as far.
Yeah. No, they didn't. And then I thought, well, that looks like fun. So
Yeah.
I dived in, and they just thought they've had enough. They just parted and bang on the
So
ground.
you walked back to the club.
I had to
Kev.
walk back, yeah, but you and Lazo, well, I don't know how far Lazo got, but you certainly surfed all the way. That was one of the moments that I remember, and I remember getting our heads shaved as well. Remember the numbers in the back? Was that 92?
Yeah, but
The next day.
I think, and Gigi's wife were hairdressers, so we all got a head shave for some reason. Although we didn't have much to shave off back then.
No, not at all. The other moment that I remember was the tattoo moment. Can you tell that story?
That was on the kangaroo tour.
Yeah.
We had a big night, and everyone was going to get tattoos the next day, but my wife was arriving. So luckily, everyone was going up. Then the wife rang from a hotel. Because they were in a different hotel around the corner. So you guys all went up to get the tattoos, and I was walking up there and just veered off and went the other way. And I still can remember Chris Johns getting back from the tattoo, getting in the shower and
trying to rub it off. So we all got Ruse 90 tattooed on our ass, and it was one of those just had to be there sort of thing.
Can you show me yours? Is it still there?
It doesn't read quite as well as it used to. Righto. Your post career has been just as famous as your career, right? In 2008, you're in the Hall of Fame, the NRL Hall of Fame. You danced on some tables in your underwear at the Normanby. You remember that?
I do. It was after I was involved with the club, but we got beaten by the Warriors, I think. We got a bit of a touch-up. I went back to the Brecky Creek, had a dinner there, ended up back at the Normanby. Very disappointed that we lost, so, yeah, got up on the tables. I remember Justin Hodges helping me up on the table. He wasn't supposed to be there that night either.
Yeah, so Hodjo, he can find trouble, that boy.
Bit of YMCA was going around at the time, so just got up there. It was funny at the time, but disappointing the way it all turned out.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. 2015, you and Thurston on the sideline, the Broncos in the grand final. Cole Felt scored in the corner to level the game. Thurston's lining up the goal. Did you have words with Thurston?
I did. I just said, mate, I'll back you out for 500.
Missed the kick.
He missed the kick, and he still hasn't paid me today. So Thursday.
Yeah, pay up, John. It's not like you can't afford it.
Origin's just around the corner, mate. That 500 will come in handy.
So he's lining up the kick, and you
just before he was.
Because he took an eternity to kick that ball.
Yeah, but I just said at the start because I just gradually walked up beside him, and because I was right there, and it was so disappointing for the Broncos, and I was right on the sideline then when Cole Felt scored, and it was just disappointing. It should never have got to that stage.
I was up in the coach's box.
And then Thursday, and honestly, it did look like it was going straight over, but luckily it hit the upright. But
history's history, mate.
History's history.
Benny Hunt's back at the Bronx now, so hopefully he can get a premiership this year with the Bronx. Righto, one of my favourite Origin moments with you non-playing. So we worked together on staff with the Origin side for many years. My favourite moment was Cameron Smith's last game, and New South Wales were kicking the ball out. You were the trainer for the Broncos in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
And who was the fight? It was
James Maloney.
Jimmy Maloney.
Yeah.
Kicked it out.
Kicked it out in the full, and I was lucky enough to be there.
You were there. You had a water bottle in one hand.
Caught the ball.
And then the whole crowd just got out of their seats and cheered.
I got a bit excited too, and just threw it back into the crowd. It was just one of those things where I was just at the right place at the right time.
You love that role, Alf, don't you?
I do. I love being involved, but it gets to the stage there, and I've been doing it for a long time now. I know I've given up the one at the Broncos, but I'm still involved with the club in a corporate in shape, and I love doing that as well because you're with the sponsors and you're with the people you enjoy being involved with and entertaining, and I'm still involved with the Origin this year. So, and that's coming to an end. I know everything's got to come to an end sooner rather than later, but I still enjoy it and still love being involved with these great young players.
Yeah, they're excellent, mate.
Players.
They're so good, the modern player, their preparation, how they go about stuff. Have you got a favourite Origin moment from your playing days?
Probably, and I never kicked too many field goals in my time. That field goal in 94.
5-4 to win.
Yeah, it was a 5-4 win. And the Mark Coyne try, I think.
The miracle try.
Yeah, the miracle try. And,
so you were involved heavily in that, weren't you?
Yeah, and Coyne was such a competitive player, and he loved having a good time. He was very enjoyable. He's a great teammate, and I know I give him grief about the St. George can't play in the games when we beat him, but he was just great to be around, great team man, loved having a drink and a good time. We called him Moth because he just wouldn't go home till the lights went out. But in saying that Mark Coyne
shirt. Have you got some favourite players or favourite moments in your time there?
I just think being involved with that great Queensland team, and I've got to say some of the players that I went through there, and the Billy Slaters, Cameron Smith, Jonathan Thurston, but just the respect they showed you when you're in that job. And Cameron Munster, he's got a bit of me, and he's a great character of the game, great character of a person, loves a good time, loves entertaining the group, and certainly you need that character in the group, and certainly I love being around him when we're having good times, and certainly being the entertainment manager of the Queensland team, to see the enjoyment and the good times we've had over that number of years.
Yeah, amazing. It's an amazing team to be around and involved in. It's just so giving, isn't it?
Yeah, it is giving, and certainly even with Billy Slater there, and Jonathan Thurston and Josh Hannay on the staff, it's a really good group of guys, but the talent that keeps coming through, and no matter who they pick, they all turn up really.
Nate Miles is on that staff too.
Yeah, Nate Miles.
How do you go with Big Natey?
Big Nate, he's a handful, actually, to tell you the truth. Yeah, he tries to keep me in line, but he thinks he's a boss, but he's not really the boss.
Righto, the statue. That must have been a really proud moment for you, 2022.
Yeah, it was proud. I remember my family coming down and for the unveiling. It was a really great day. Wayne Bennett was there, and I never expect them accolades, but I still remember the day Wally's statue was there, then the Beat Sale and the Lockie and Mel. So to get a statue at Suncorp Stadium, it's amazing. And you said about Ava before, and I regularly go to the Caxton. Yeah, so, and I only live at Milton, which is not far from the Caxton, so walking past a statue on the weekends, it's pretty good. It's to have and taking the grandkids and that taking them there to get photos and that.
That's amazing. It must
feel
amazing. Really proud for you.
And I do. It's great. It's great for our family.
Yeah. Righto. Now, your last famous outing was in 2022 at the Caxton. 6 more songs. So this is a famous night in rugby league history, state of origin history. Tell us about that night.
Well, it was and they can't take the buses down Caxton Street anymore, and the players these days wouldn't know what it's like. I still remember, still get goosebumps driving down when we were going to the game, and the banging on the bus and the cheering and seeing the support Queensland had. So after this game we won, I thought, no better way than take the bus back up to Caxton Street, take them up and get the players up into the Caxton having a drink. And we end up upstairs there till close, and I just was tied up in the moment thinking we don't want to go home yet.
Yeah, we don't want this to end.
So we had a bit of a DJ there, and
I think Darcy was there that night. Darcy.
I think you were, mate. So, and we just wanted to stay a bit longer, so we just wanted 6 more songs to finish the night off with.
So you wanted the DJ, whoever it was, to play six more songs.
Yeah, but we didn't get it because Hawley, if you're out there,
Hawley's out there, and he said that he dragged. So
we got the.
Did you get to 6 songs?
We got the 6 songs out. Yeah. Hawley says, I got them all out, but he didn't.
After the 6th song, right?
Yeah, after the 6th
There you go,
song,
Hawley.
yeah.
That's your question answered, mate. It's out there now. Alfie got his 6 songs in.
And we enjoyed it, mate.
That's brilliant, Alf. Well, what a career you've had and still have now. You're still working at the Broncos?
Still work at the Broncos. Still, as I said, still love being involved.
Corporate Alf now?
Yeah, corporate Alf. So enjoy that role, but certainly, I got quite a few sponsors that I look after and have a great time with. So I'm just thankful that what rugby league's given me, and still enjoy life, still have a good time. And my motto is, if you don't like what you're doing, go find something you like doing. And I do.
Well, the old saying, winners have parties and losers can do as they please. Well, you're certainly a winner, Allan Langer, and thanks very much, mate, for coming on the Inside Ball. Love your presence. You're a great fella. You're a champion. You're a winner, and very grateful to get you on the show, mate.
Thanks, Toad.
Get on you, mate. There you go.